How come I'm not seeing it?
All right. We got through all of our plaintiff witnesses.
Okay.
Today, we're on the defense witnesses. So, we should be on to the direct examination of Jebediah Boomsnickel. Would like to do the direct examination. Anyone out there? Honest? Come on up. Are you on the right page? All right, so your notes should be out. You should be listening for that evidence. Okay, again, we're looking for, do you think the suspension was justified? Do you think any of the amendment rights were violated? Did the principal violate policy? Did the police follow procedures? All right, so all the evidence should tell you yes or no on those so you can make a final decision. All right, go ahead.
Please state your name, age, and occupation for the court.
I am Dr. Jebediah Boomsnickel. I am 63 years old, and I am principal at Westdale Middle School.
Please describe your education and experience.
I hold a bachelor's degree in education from the University of Southern England, a master's degree in education and administration from Manitoba State University, and a PhD in educational leadership from the University of Hawaii, Maui campus. I have been a teacher and administrator for over 30 years in a variety of school districts across Iowa. As a matter of fact, I recently was awarded with the Iowa Middle School Principal of the Year Award.
Why did you choose to become an educator?
It's simple. I have a real passion to help kids learn. I want to provide them the best environment possible for learning and help each and every child develop to their full potential.
How do you make that happen as a principal?
It's my job to maintain a positive, respectful atmosphere for learning.
When did you become aware of the situation with Pat Green?
Back in late March, he came to me with some concerns about school.
What were his concerns?
He was unhappy about a few of the rules we have put into place.
Why does the school have rules?
We need to maintain a safe, non-disruptive atmosphere for all students in school. Students can't learn if they don't feel safe at school.
Why do you require the students to sit with their playing groups at lunch?
Unfortunately, we have a lot of issues with students throwing food and leaving their trays and garbage on the tables.
When Pat Green came to your office with some concerns, what was your reaction?
Of course, I was interested in what he had to say. Some of the best ideas come from our students.
What else did you talk to Pat about?
I thanked him for his concerns, but I did warn him that we couldn't have him creating any more disruptions at school. I very clearly told him that if he continued any form of protest, he would be suspended.
Where did you get this idea from?
It isn't my idea. It's straight from the Westdale School District's discipline policy.
Read that, honest.
At this time, I would like to introduce into evidence a copy of section 245.73 of the Westdale School District Student Discipline Policy. Dr. Boomsnickel, do you recognize this document?
Yes, it is our school district's student discipline policy, which I am always very careful to follow.
Can you read for the court section 245.37?
Prior to suspending a student from school, all the following actions must be taken by an administrator to ensure fairness and protection of students' rights. Administrator must meet with the student and give them the opportunity to improve behavior Administrator must investigate the discipline problem thoroughly. No punishment is allowed unless the evidence clearly shows the student was at fault. And the administrator must issue both verbal and written warning to both the student and the parent prior to issuing a suspension.
How carefully did you follow the policy when dealing with Pat Green's situation?
Extremely carefully. I followed it to a T. There is a policy for a reason, and I made sure to do exactly what it says.
What kind of disruptions did Pat cause for the Westdale Middle School?
Pat caused all kinds of problems. The day he was suspended, he must have told his friends before he left, or texted them or something, because the afternoon, all the kids could talk about was how mean I was and how unfair the suspension was.
Any other disruptions?
Once the website became known among the students, thanks to the flyers that were being passed out there, was a whole new round of disruptions. As a matter of fact, the number of students being referred to the office in the days and weeks after this happened skyrocketed. We used to have maybe 1 or 2 kids sent down to the office per day. Then we were up to 20 or more a day.
Did you ever want to get revenge on Pat or his friends with the suspension?
No, not at all. I just needed to send a message to Pat and all of the students at Westdale Middle School that learning is priority number 1. We won't tolerate any disruptions to the learning process.
All right, thank you. One more question. Who would like to cross-examine Dr. Gruen?
Dr. Gruensmigel, isn't it true that despite your Principal of the Year award, Westdale Middle School has one of the highest rates of student disruption in the state?
Unfortunately, yes, that is true.
And isn't it true that you just testified that it is my job to maintain a positive, respectful atmosphere for learning, and that it was your job to deal with students who are disruptive in my school?
Yes, that is what I said.
So a reasonable person would likely draw the conclusion that you aren't doing a very good job as a principal, are you?
I guess that is up to each person to decide.
Prior to suspending a student, the Westdale School District's student discipline policy requires that you provide a written warning to both the student and parent. Did you do that in this case?
Yes, I think so.
Do you have any proof that you followed this part of the policy, any dated copies of the warnings or any copies at all?
Not with me right now, but I'm pretty sure I did give him the written warnings.
Earlier you testified that after Pat's suspension, the rate of students getting referred to the office went up dramatically, is that correct?
Yes,
So really, it was your action of suspending Pat that caused the disruptions to learning at your school, not Pat's action, isn't that true?
that may be how it appears, but I don't agree with that reasoning.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? So, we're on to the direct examination of Nikki Smith. Who'd like to do that? Anybody? Anybody would like to ask? Now I can call on somebody? Well, Linus just did it, so how about Marvin? Just remember the difference between directs and cross-examination. So direct examination means this would be their attorney asking them questions. The cross-examination would be their attorney asking them questions. So it's going to sound a little different.
Please state your name, age, and occupation for the court.
I'm Nikki Smith. I am 35 years old and I am an 8th grade social studies teacher at Westdale Middle.
Did you have the plaintiff, Pat Green, in your social studies class during the 2009 to 2010 school year?
Yes, I remember Pat well.
Describe Pat as a student in your class.
Pat was very intelligent and always very energetic and active, always willing to participate in classroom discussions and debates.
How much of a disruption was Pat in your classroom?
Sometimes not too bad, but other days he was really disruptive. Him having to share his opinion often got in the way of the lesson I was trying to teach the rest of the students.
What topics do you cover in your 8th grade social studies class?
We teach American history from the beginnings through the Civil War.
What information did you cover about the American Revolution and the Bill of Rights?
Those are some of my favorite topics, so I really enjoy teaching the kids about how all the abuses of power that King George and the British did directly resulted in the way that Americans set their Constitution and Bill of Rights. The Americans wanted to ensure that they would always prevent one person or group of people from becoming too powerful ever again. We talk a lot about how Americans have the right to freedom of speech protected by the First Amendment and the right to privacy under the Fourth Amendment, which protects us from the government illegally searching and seizing our property.
Enough with the history lesson, Miss Smith. Did Pat ask you for any advice?
As a matter of fact, he did. I really tried to emphasize that they try to get their point across peacefully and respectfully. I was the one who suggested Pat schedule a meeting with Dr. Boothsnickel.
When did you learn about the boothsnickelsucks.weebly.com website that Pat had created?
A few days after Pat had his initial meeting with Dr. Boothsnickel, I started hearing rumors about the students about some kind of website Pat had created.
What happened?
I had my class in the computer lab. We were working on a really neat role-playing game that I found online. It takes place during the American Revolution, and the students play the part of a young boy in Boston at the time around the Boston Massacre. The students have to talk to different people in the game and figure out if they would have been a patriot or loyalist. The students really seemed to enjoy the game. While we were in the computer lab, I started to notice that some students were on other websites than the one they were supposed to be. When I would go over to see what they were on, they would quickly switch it or close out of that website.
How did you finally find out what website they were looking at?
I gave the first class a pretty stern warning that they needed to be on the only assigned website and no other ones. During the next class period, I noticed a piece of paper on the floor. I picked it up and read it.
What did it say?
It was the flyer advertising Pat Green's website. It told all about it and gave a website address for students to go on.
Were you able to stop students from accessing the website?
I tried my best, but the minute I would turn my back on this one side of the room, everyone on the other side would switch their computer to boothsnickelsucks.weebly.com.
How much of a disruption was this website to the teaching and learning going on in your classroom?
It was a huge disruption. As much as I tried, I really couldn't get the kids back on task. Not much learning happened that day at Westdale Middle School. In talking to some other teachers, the classes were disrupted.
All right, thank you. No more questions. We're on to the cross-examination. Emma, why don't you come up and do the cross-examination?
In your job as a teacher, do your students generally respect you and learn from your ideas that you teach?
Yes, I hope so.
So would it be fair to say that you want your students to act upon the knowledge that they acquire in your classroom?
Yes, that is what teaching and learning is all about, taking knowledge learned at school and applying it to our lives.
Isn't it true you taught your students all about the form of protest in the American Revolution?
Yes,
And isn't it true that that includes some forms of violent protest and extremely challenges to the authority?
yes,
So isn't it true that Pat may have gotten some ideas against protesting against Dr. Boothsnickel from your class?
it's possible, but we certainly never discussed making inappropriate websites.
Isn't it also true that you were the one who suggested that Pat that he have to face meeting with Dr. Boothsnickel, the very meeting that was a cause for Pat becoming angry enough to create his website?
Yes,
Let's talk about the day that your class was in the computer lab. Isn't it true that your students were distracted and off task that day?
yes,
Whose job would you say was to maintain discipline in the classroom and put a stop to the disruptions?
the teacher.
So you're telling the court that you knew that there were disruptions in your class and you even knew why, yet you failed to bring your class under control?
Yes, but this was an extreme circumstance.
So had you been able to do your job as a teacher, maintain discipline and bring disruptions to an end, Pat Green's website shouldn't have been a disruption in your class at all, shouldn't it?
All right, thank you. No more questions. We're on to the direct examination of Sam White. I'll give you a second now to maybe think about those answers. If you ever written anything down? You probably have a few notes from both Dr. Boothsnickel and Nikki Smith. Chase, you get to be the direct examination of Sam White.
Please give me your name, age, and occupation for the court.
My name is Sam White. I am 28 years old and I am a police officer from the Westdale Police Department.
Do you have any special trainings or assignments in your role as a police officer?
Yes, I attend Des Moines Area Community College and received a degree in criminal justice and then attended the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy before being certified as a police officer. I now work at the school as the school resource officer assigned to Westdale Middle School.
Please describe for the court the knowledge and training a police officer must have.
Well, it is quite a bit more than you would think. Of course, we had to do the physical fitness training and be certified in firearms handling. But there was actually quite a bit of study of the law as well. I had to learn all about the criminal justice process, including what rights citizens have when being investigated for a crime.
How important do you think it is that you respect the rights of a citizen accused of wrongdoing?
Extremely important. We always stay on the side of caution and make sure that we follow procedures very carefully so that no one's rights are violated.
What are some of the various citizens' rights that a police officer has to be aware of?
First of all, we are always cautious to not stop someone from exercising their rights. Things like the First Amendment and freedom of speech, expression, and religion, and the Second Amendment's right to bear arms.
What are the things from the Bill of Rights come into play when you are investigating a possible crime?
Well, let's see. Oh, there's the Fourth Amendment, which deals with the citizen's right to privacy and protection from illegal search and seizures, and then the Fifth Amendment, where people have the right to remain silent if accused of a crime. The Sixth Amendment includes certain protections for people accused of a crime, such as being appointed a lawyer if they can't.
What are some of your duties as an SRO?
I generally spend as much time at the school as I can. I present the DARE drug education program, help supervise the events and activities, direct traffic before and after school, and then if there are any problems with the students, I deal with that as well.
What did Dr. Boomsnickel ask you to do to help with his investigation into Pat's behavior?
He had found out about Pat's website from one of the teachers at the school. The teacher had reported that the students were accessing Pat's website in the computer lab, which was causing quite a disruption to the class. The teacher had also found a flyer promoting the website, but it wasn't initially clear who was responsible for making and distributing the flyers. Dr. Boomsnickel asked me to search Pat Green's locker to find any further evidence that he or she had created the website or made the flyers.
Are you, as a school resource officer, allowed to search a student's locker without their permission?
Oh yes, definitely. It has been established in several previous court cases, such as New Jersey versus TLO, that schools can search and even seize student property within the school building if there is a reasonable suspicion that what the student is doing may be dangerous, illegal, or disruptive to the school environment. In addition, the Westdale School District discipline policy clearly states this.
Could you please read to the court the Westdale School District Discipline Policy, Section 245.38?
Prior to searching a student's locker, all of the following actions must be taken by an administrator to ensure fairness and protection of the student's rights.
How carefully did you and Principal Boomsnickel follow this part of the policy?
Very carefully. We made sure that there was reasonable suspicion before I went to search the locker, and then brought everything I found back to the office.
What did you find in Pat Green's locker that pertained to his case?
I found a printout of the boomsnickelsex.weebly.com website, as well as quite a few flyers promoting the website.
After examining the printout of the flyers, what action did you and Dr. Boomsnickel take next?
He asked me to go find Pat in class and escort him to the office. Once there, he explained to Pat that he was being suspended for 1 month and that he would be calling a parent to come pick him up.
What else did Dr. Boomsnickel ask you to do as a part of the investigation into this case?
He asked me to go to Pat Green's house and take his computer so that they could be analyzed by the Westdale Police Department Crime Scene Investigation Unit to verify whether it was Pat who had created the website.
Describe for the court what happened when you went into the Green household.
Myself and Officer Black, who I requested to accompany me as backup, rolled up to the house around 4:20 p.m. When we rang the doorbell, Ms. Green answered and greeted us. We explained the purpose of our visit to gather information about the website Pat had created. We then asked if it would be okay to enter the house and to investigate.
What did Mrs. Green's response to your request?
She said that that would be fine. As a matter of fact, she told us where Pat's room was and told us to go upstairs and look around.
What did you find when you searched Pat's room?
We found a laptop computer, as well as several other printouts of the boonsnicholsucks.weebly.com website and more flyers, the same ones I had found in Pat's locker at school.
Why did you seize the laptop and flyers?
I felt that they were of critical importance in determining both who made the original website and who was responsible for promoting it at school. In addition, there is an exception to the Fifth Amendment that says you must have someone's permission to seize their property. The exception says that if the evidence is in imminent danger of being destroyed, the police may seize it without a warrant. I felt like if I left the computer in Pat's room to go get the warrant, by the time I returned, he would be able to erase the website and flyers from his memory.
What did you do with the evidence that you found?
We carefully logged everything into the police report and then took it all down to the police station to be examined by the crime scene investigation.
What did the CSI unit's investigation determine?
As you can see by the report, the laptop we took from Pat's room was determined to have been the one that was originally used to create the boonsnicholsucks.weebly.com website and the flyers used to promote the website at Westdale Middle School. Additionally, a fingerprint scan came back with 2 sets of fingerprints on both the laptop and the flyers, Pat Green and Chris Jones.
At this time, I would like you to introduce into evidence the Westdale Police Department Report 1256. Officer White, how well do you feel like you followed procedures in the investigation of this case?
Very well. I can't think of anything that we missed or skipped over. Policy was followed, no one's rights were violated.
All right, thank you. No more questions. We're on to our cross-examination. Jackson, why don't you come up and do the cross-examination?
Officer White, just so we make this clear to the jury, Pat Green is not now and has never been accused of a crime in this situation. Isn't that true?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, Pat Green is the plaintiff of this case, and Dr. Boonsnickel is the defendant accused of violating Pat's rights. Isn't that true?
Yes.
It says in the Westdale School District Discipline Policy 245.38 on student locker searches that you must have reasonable suspicion that a student's actions are a danger or disruption to the school's environment before searching a locker. Isn't that true?
Yes.
But prior to searching Pat Green's locker, the only suspicion you had that Pat was involved were Dr. Boonsnickel's accusations. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there was no proof or evidence that Pat was involved in the making of the website beyond Dr. Boonsnickel saying that Pat was mad at him, was there?
No.
Isn't it true that the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution prohibits illegal search and seizure of private property?
Yes.
So any evidence you found in his locker, which in turn led you to search and seizure of Pat's computer, should not have been used to get Pat into trouble.
Like I said before, I'm no lawyer, but I'd have to say yes.
Isn't it true that in most cases when a police officer wants to search a private citizen's home, they have to get a search warrant signed by a judge that says exactly what the police are looking for and what the reasonable suspicion is?
Yes.
When you went to the Green household, did you have a search warrant?
No.
When you asked Miss Green for permission to search Pat's room, did you explain that they had the right to say no unless you had a warrant?
No.
And after you entered the home with permission, but without a warrant, did you at any time ask permission to seize any evidence, including Pat's computer and the flyers promoting the website?
No.
So, Officer White, you were telling the court that you took Pat's computer without asking him or his parent?
Well, none of them ever said no, so I figured that meant that they were okay with us taking it.
Isn't it true that the Westdale CSI unit's investigation of the evidence determined that there were 2 sets of fingerprints on both the computer and the flyers?
Yes.
And isn't it also true that the second set of prints found was that of Chris Jones, Pat's best friend?
Yes.
So isn't it possible that Chris Jones might have been the person who created the boonsnickelsucks.weebly.com website and/or the flyers?
Yes, it's possible.
So you're saying that the evidence can't tell us beyond a reasonable doubt that Pat was even responsible for creating the website for which he was suspended?
I guess not.
All right. We have closing statements. So now we have heard all of our testimony from all of our witnesses. All right, so we are going to hear the plaintiff's closing statement. Why don't Ryan Rafferty, you come and read the plaintiff's closing statement.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we believe that we have clearly shown here today that Pat Green's rights were violated. Both the testimony and the evidence clearly demonstrate that Dr. Boonsnickel and the Westdale School District did not follow their own policies. The evidence in this case is also clearly proves that Pat Green's rights were violated. Several times we have shown how the Westdale School District students' discipline and locker search policies were violated. The discovery that several sets of fingerprints were found on Pat's computer and flyers only adds to the troubling nature of the validity of Pat's punishment. We believe that several past cases have set a precedent for how you should find a case. In the landmark student expression case, Tinker versus the Des Moines School District, the United States Supreme Court ruled that students should not shed their rights as citizens when they walk into the school building each morning. In the case of New Jersey versus T.L.O., the Supreme Court justice ruled that reasonable suspicion must exist for schools to search a student's locker or private belongings. Finally, the case that most clearly applies to this one is Lunis Inc. versus Woodland School District. In that case, the U.S. District Court ruled that students who created a website and a home critical of school administration should not have been suspended and that the students' First Amendment rights were violated. That case's circumstances are very similar to this one, and we see no reason to rule otherwise. Pat's rights under the First Amendment to freedom of speech was taken away, and he was punished for creating a website speaking out against the problems at the school. Furthermore, Pat and his family's rights to privacy and protection from illegal search and seizure under the Fourth Amendment was violated when they searched both his locker and his home without reasonable suspicion for a warrant. Any evidence, however questionable it may be at this point, must not be allowed in this case because it was clearly illegally obtained. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we ask that you find that Pat's rights were violated. His suspension should be permanently removed from his record, that you order Dr. Boonsnickel and the Westdale School District to write Pat a letter of apology, and that you order them to pay the Green family $100,000 for the humiliation, emotional distress, and potential impact on future plans. They may suffer. Thank you for your time. I know you will make the right decision.
All right. So we only have one thing left, and that would be our defendant's closing statement. So you probably should have got a lot of information from that closing statement to help summarize. It's been a while since you heard some of the testimonies, and so that helped summarize some of that testimony. We're going to do the defendant's closing statement. Colby, you can read that.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for your time and persistence and considering the testimony and evidence in this case. Moron, evil, tyranny, fool, prison guard, boonsnickelsucks.com.wooly.com. I could go on and on, but you have all seen the website by now. Is this what kind of respect we want our nation's youth to have for our leaders? Schools are in chaos. School evidence is increasing. School violence is increasing. Test scores are down. Someone has to say enough is enough, and today that someone is you. We believe that the evidence shown also supports the defendant's cause in this case. the website boonsticklessucks.weebly.com and flyers used to publicize it at Westdale Middle School clearly show that Pat Green wanted to and is very successfully at causing great disruption to learning. Had Pat created his website at home and kept it to himself, we could not be here today. Unfortunately, this isn't what happened. The action of publicizing the website at school created a tremendous disruption to the learning environment, and therefore Pat's suspension was entirely justified. The idea that several sets of fingerprints being found on Pat's computer cast doubt upon who created the website is merely a red herring thrown out by the plaintiff in a desperate move to distract you from the facts of the case. During his testimony, Pat freely and clearly admitted to being the sole creator of the website, rendering the fingerprint evidence irrelevant. We believe Pat's case law supports our argument in case today. In the Tinker v. Des Moines School District case, the United States Supreme Court Justice ruled that yes, students do maintain their right to freedom of speech and expression at school, but if such expression causes disruption to the learning environment at the school, it may legally be stopped and punished. Clearly, Pat Green caused such a disruption and therefore forfeited his right to free speech. In the New Jersey versus TLO case, the Supreme Court ruled that the school must have a reasonable suspicion before searching a student's locker for possessions. We have shown that Dr. Boonstickle and Officer White has such reasonable suspicion in this case. Clearly, these cases have set a precedent, and we believe all of them require you to rule that Pat Green's suspension was justified and legal. We ask you as members of the jury closely examine all the evidence and testimony as you make your decision. Plain and simple, Pat Green was fairly warned not to continue his crusade against Dr. Boonstickle's efforts to maintain discipline at West Hill Middle School, and yet he continued, creating a violent storm of disruption and endangered the learning of every student in school. We respectfully requested that you deny all the plaintiff's requests and find in favor of the defense. Thank you.
All right. So, now we've heard the entire case. So, with all our evidence, and even in the closing statements, both the lawyers used Tinker versus Des Moines, New Jersey versus TLO. They both used the same court cases to say they were right. So, somebody in last, I don't remember you guys, one of the other classes like, well, so are we going to really know if someone's rights are violated in this? It's not up to me. I can't say yes they were, no they weren't, because that's up to the jury to decide. The jury looking at those facts might say yes, these were violated. The jury might say no, they weren't violated. Depends on what they talk about and how they see the evidence and the facts. So just because like this is the case doesn't mean, oh, there's a correct answer for us and this is exactly what the answer should be. It's about how have you determined the evidence, okay? How have you determined the testimony? What do you take into account? Maybe you think part of a right was violated. Maybe you think they weren't. Maybe you think parts of a procedure were followed correctly. Maybe you think some parts weren't. So all that goes into what you decide. So some people in the jury might say, you know what, they didn't follow this part like they're supposed to, so now I'm just going to say that they violated all their rights. Some people might say in a jury, well, they didn't follow that part, they forgot that part, or they didn't do that correct, but they did all these other things correct, so yeah, I think that person or whatever is guilty. So it depends on what a jury, okay, is going to decide. So you guys now are the jury. We have about 10 minutes left today in class. All right. So all I want us to do today, here's what we're going to do. Actually, I'll tell you, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. So Mr. Sandquist will be back. And so he won't know anything about any of this case. He will never have heard it. Okay. So what you guys will do tomorrow in class is kind of start a jury deliberation. So you guys will all be the jury. Now there's what, 25 or 26 here. That's larger than a normal jury. That's okay. But you guys, as jury members, we'll discuss. Well, I think, you know, so when you get out, yeah, I think he's guilty because of this, or I think Dr. Booth-Nichols is not guilty because I think it was these guys' fault. We find in favor of the defendants, they win because they shouldn't have to pay them or this, there, you know, it's up to you guys. So you guys will start that deliberation with him tomorrow. So for the first, 10, 20 minutes, that's what you'll be doing. By the end of the class, you'll have to have your written part done. So the back side of this will have to be written out completely and turned into him before you can leave. All right, telling us what you think. Okay, yes. You guys are part of the jury. So tomorrow, you guys are all part of the jury, even if you got a part up here, you're part of the jury. So in the last 5 minutes, you guys right now can maybe start talking amongst each other with people next to you. Maybe if there's evidence you didn't get down or look at each other's evidence or notes, start discussing a little bit before you guys start your deliberation tomorrow, okay? All right.
Long story, I'll explain it later. I thought you saw that I came in, I should have made sure.
Oh, no. Oh.
I didn't realize I was here.
Yeah, there's a big